Welcome to this video about searching for articles in library databases. Finding credible articles is an important aspect of research, and you'll often be asked to search for these articles for papers, projects, and discussion board posts. In this video, you'll learn some tips to quickly find what you need and better navigate library databases, including choosing effective keywords or search terms, using the limiting and filtering features in databases to remove the resources you don't need to see, adapting your search terms to what you see being used in the database, using an article's references to find other helpful articles, and using the citation generator tool to save time. Note that these tips will work for a variety of databases in the library. Depending on where you're searching, things might look a little different, but the general ideas and features are often very similar. Let's get started. First, starting with strong search terms and being willing to adapt can have a big impact on what kinds of articles you're able to find. After identifying a topic and developing a research question for what you'd like to discover, pick out 2 to 4 keywords or short phrases that sum up the big idea. For example, if your research question is, how does a remote work policy affect employee productivity? Some keywords could be remote work and productivity. Remember that the fewer search terms you use, the more results you'll get. So it's often a good idea to start more broadly with a few search terms, keeping it simple, and then add more later. Once you've identified a few keywords, try them out in the search to see what you find. First, look at the total number of results near the top of the page. You're looking for a number that's both manageable and gives you some wiggle room to either refine your search or add more search terms. If you see tens of thousands, that is likely too many for you to read through, so you may likely need to try a different search term or add another to help focus your search. Or if you're seeing only a handful of articles, or none at all, you may need to remove one of your search terms to broaden it back out. You should also consider other words that have similar meanings to your search terms. For example, you might see articles that refer to remote work as telecommute. It might be a good idea to try using that term instead to see if you find different results. Play around with a few variations of your search terms to see what changes you notice. Now that you've found some useful keywords to use in your searches, make sure you're only seeing the resource you actually need to by using the filtering and limiting tools built into library databases. For example, if you need to find peer-reviewed scholarly articles published in the last few years, don't spend time sifting through a bunch of short newswire articles that aren't what you need. Instead, look to the left side of your results list and find the source type section. Then select the scholarly journals option or even the peer-reviewed filter if there is one. Either option will then filter out everything that doesn't fit that criteria, leaving just the kinds of articles you want to see. Also, keep an eye on these articles' publication dates, since depending on your topic, you may need to focus only on fairly recent information. In this case, one of these articles was published in 2002, and a lot has changed since then in terms of remote work options. Look again in the left panel to find the publication date section. Either use the bar graph to limit by decade, or enter the specific date range. In this case, I'll limit to just the last few years. Now, instead of a few thousand results, you have a much more manageable number to search through, and know that they should all be the same type of article and written fairly recently. Feel free to use other filters and limits to continue focusing on what you want to see, but starting with source type and publication date is typically one of the easier ways to quickly jump in and find the resources you need. If you've already tried different combinations of keywords and used the built-in limiting tools, but still aren't finding what you're looking for, take a step back and pay close attention to the specific words the database is using to describe different topics, such as in the article title or in the abstract. Even better, look for a subject section. Subjects are predetermined terms that the database developers use to organize articles about similar topics. From a searcher's perspective, they act like tags, allowing you to find a bunch of articles that all have a similar topic in common. Checking out the subjects can be a quick way of determining what an article is about. They can also give you another source for potential keywords. Sometimes you'll notice that the way the database developers refer to a term is different from how you might think of it. By searching with those terms instead, most likely synonyms to your original search terms, you might have a better chance of finding relevant articles. For example, notice how some of these articles include work at home as a subject. You might want to try adding that to your search in place of remote work to find a wider range of articles you might have missed. In addition to telecommuting and remote work, you now have 3 different options for searching about the same general idea. Searching with keywords isn't the only way to find articles about your topic. Another route is to use an article's works cited section to help springboard your own searching. Since peer-reviewed articles always need to include a list of sources, chances are, if the original paper is relevant to you, the articles referenced by the authors should also be pretty helpful. This is a great way to not only find similar papers about the topic, but you can also identify groundbreaking articles that introduced new and influential ideas if you notice them being cited frequently by others. When you find a relevant article, take a moment to look at its references section before returning to the search results. Depending on which database you're using, you might even find a references button, which will show you those citations directly, even letting you click on titles that are linked elsewhere. Otherwise, you can download the PDF and scroll to the bottom of the article to see the full Works Cited section. If you find an article listed that looks interesting, try copying and pasting the title of each article into the library's main search tool, OneSearch, which you can access from the library's homepage, library.csp.edu. If the library has access to the article, you can then jump straight to it and fully determine if the article will be useful for your research. One benefit of using library databases is that you can use built-in tools to auto-generate a full citation in APA. After clicking on the title of an article on your results page, look for a Cite button. The location may differ depending on which database you're using, so look either maybe on the right side if it's an EBSCO database, or at the top right corner for a ProQuest database, like we're seeing here. You can copy and paste the citation and save yourself the trouble of constructing it yourself. While you're here, be sure to also save a permalink to the article. Permalinks are more stable than copying what's in the URL bar and won't time out, making them a great way to make sure you're able to get back to this page in the future. That concludes this video on search tips for finding articles in library databases. If you have any questions, get in touch with a librarian through our 24/7 chat service, via email at library@csp.edu, or by phone. Thanks for listening.